Levin, right here on the Fox News Channel, nationally syndicated radio host. I call him the Great One. I don't even have to ask you a question. Just go. Whatever you brought with you, go.
Here's what I brought with me. You don't need 24 hours and 3 days to make a case if you have a case. You know, Potter Stewart was an associate justice of the Supreme Court, and they had ruled on this issue of pornography, and he was asked, what's the definition of pornography? And he said, I don't know it, but I know it when I see it. Well, abuse of power. What's the definition of abuse of power? No standards. It's whatever the Democrats say. It's their pornography. And Adam Schiff is the pornographer. Abuse of power, it just means whatever the Democrats say it means. There's no standard. There's no definition. In all these hours, all this talk, they have not explained. Forget about Trump. What's the definition of abuse of power? Because every president has theoretically abused power. Lincoln, Washington, Jefferson. Look, the Louisiana Purchase was done without authorized funding. Abuse of power. We can go to John Adams, put people in prison under the Sedition Act. Abuse of power. FDR used the IRS. FDR, the internment of Japanese Americans. JFK used the IRS and the FBI. LBJ, same thing, and the CIA. Go down the list, all these great Democrats. Woodrow Wilson resegregated the civil service. Abuse of power, abuse of power. That's ridiculous. It's pornography in the hands of the Democrats. It's whatever they think it is. And not once have they explained the standard for abuse of power. Obstructing Congress. You know what obstructing Congress is to these Democrats? Separation of powers. That's not obstructing Congress. Here's my question. Where's the smoking gun? All this bull that's been going on day in and day. The testimony. Where's the witness under penalty of perjury who said the President of the United States committed treason, bribery, or other high crimes or misdemeanors? The President of the United States quid pro quo. The President of the United States committed a crime. They said the opposite, and they called all the witnesses over there in the House of Representatives. Where's the smoking gun document? All the talk about no documents. They had hundreds of thousands of pages of documents. They don't have one that incriminates the President of the United States. Not one. That's why they're spewing for 24 hours and 3 days. Now I'm going to talk about interfering in an election. They say Donald Trump interfered in an election. First of all, don't we have a right to know if Joe Biden and his son are as corrupt as hell? That Joe Biden, as vice president, may have been corrupt? That Joe Biden, if he's elected president, God forbid, could be blackmailed? Don't we want to know this? Why is he the bubble man? Donald Trump's been investigated from day one by committees, by prosecutors, by reporters. They don't worry about that. Let's talk about interfering in the 2020 election. What did Schiff and the other mobsters say on the floor of the Senate? What did they say? We don't want Trump to get elected president again. We must stop him. In other words, they want to interfere in the 2020 election and prevent the Republican Party from nominating their president for a second term as president of the United States. It's right out there. They're interfering in the election. And senators, they're interfering in your election. Schumer has been collaborating with these guys. He's calling all these votes for the purpose of taking over the majority. Why do you think Nadler, low IQ Nadler, was on the floor of the Senate the other day saying, you're involved in obstruction. You're not upholding the Constitution, because they want to take the majority. This is about also not only defeating Trump in 2020, but defeating the Senate. Now, here's mostly what's going on. When you hear their arguments, they're projecting motives. They're not arguing evidence. They're projecting motives. The president must have meant this. This must have meant that. When he did it, he must have done that. I have the damn phone call right here, the transcript. The President of the United States talking to the President of Ukraine. He knows there's at least 12 people listening in. You think he's going to sit there and commit an impeachable offense with 12 people listening in? In this phone call, there's no interference in any campaign. There's no threats of withholding military aid in exchange for anything. There's no campaign of pressure. Campaign of pressure, they say. The only one who wasn't aware of it was the President of the Ukraine and the Foreign Minister of Ukraine. There's never been any campaign of pressure. Let me just say this, America. These Democrats have destroyed the Constitution, the impeachment clause. They're trying to destroy separation of power. They're trying to choose the Republican nominee for president in 2020. They're trying to take over the Senate. That's what's going on. The Senate has a responsibility to protect the American people from the House, from the Democrats. That's their constitutional responsibility. This president hasn't violated the Constitution, not once. He hasn't violated any federal statute, not once. He's complied with every federal court order, every one. He's not committed treason, bribery, or other high crimes or misdemeanors. But the pornographers over there in the House, abuse of power, obstruction of Congress, they're the ones. Maybe they ought to be expelled. Maybe we ought to start thinking about that. That's it.